Thanks guys for watching Odyssey Media. This is Nicodemus. Make sure you are following, subscribing, liking, commenting, agreeing, disagreeing, whatever you like. So for today's video, it's going to be, is Trump and the Illuminati? Plain and simple, question mark. And for number one, there is a video in the 90s of him talking about him being a Democrat and how he would shoot some people. So that shows a lot of character flaw. I would say that'd be number strike one right there.
My people are so smart. And you know what else they say about my people? The polls. They say, I have the most loyal people. Did you ever see that? Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible. No, they say, Trump, we love you too, man. Trump's voters are by far, you know, the cases, I probably identify more as a Democrat.
It's the first campaign attack ad to take aim at Donald Trump, using his past words of support for the Democrats to skewer him.
Hillary Clinton, I think, is a terrific woman. I mean, I'm a little biased because I've known her for years. I think she really works hard, and I think she does a good job.
It's from the Rand Paul campaign, and the Kentucky senator actually imitated Trump on the stump.
You know, I must be smart. I'm rich. I'm rich, you gotta be smart, right?
Trump was quick to respond, telling the Washington Post the attack ad reflects positions he no longer holds. I feel sorry for the great people of Kentucky who are being used as a backup to Senator Paul's hopeless attempt to become president of the United States. Senator Paul has no chance of winning the nomination. And John McCain.
Number two, obviously everybody knows about the shots and the word I can't say, the Ovid. So that was pretty much strike two, following along the lines of Fauci and never firing him, never correcting any of that. And to this day, still owning up to the jabs. So that would say that's number two right there. That's strike two. Number three, so this was actually another part of his character flaw, his weakness, and the time of when direct evidence was shown among his inner circle. Powell and Flynn were telling him and giving him diagrams of how to show the Dominion voting systems and to show the evidence. I mean, that itself was a big flaw, not only to him.
Legal team in contesting this election. Sydney, we talked about the Dominion software. I know that there were voting irregularities. Tell me about that.
That's to put it mildly. The computer glitches could not and should not have happened at all. That is where the fraud took place, where they were flipping votes in the computer system or adding votes that did not exist. We need an audit of all of the computer systems that played any role in this fraud whatsoever. And, you know, Joe Biden had it right. He said that he had the biggest voter fraud organization ever, and he didn't need people's votes now. He would need people later. They had this all planned, Maria. They had the algorithms. They had the paper ballots waiting to be inserted if and when needed. And notably, President Trump's vote in the blue states went up enormously. That's when they had to stop the vote count and go in and replace votes for Biden and take away Trump votes.
I've never seen voting machines stop in the middle of an election, stop down and assess the situation. I also see reports that Nancy Pelosi's longtime chief of staff is a key executive at that company. Richard Blum, Senator Feinstein's husband, significant shareholder of the company. What can you tell us about the interest on the other side of this Dominion software?
Well, obviously, they have invested in it for their own reasons and are using it to commit this fraud to steal votes. I think they've even stolen them from other Democrats in their own party who should be outraged about this also. Bernie Sanders might very well have been the Democratic candidate, but they've stolen against whoever they wanted to steal it from.
Sydney, these are incredible charges that you are making this morning. We, of course, will be following this, and we thank you for joining me today. Please come back soon. Sydney Powell. That'll do it for Sunday Morning Futures. The conversation.
But for the nation itself, they actually got into a shouting match with deep state lawyers around him that he could have just fired. And he said, this is what I have to deal with. Really, bro? You could have just fired these people. So that was a huge.
The startling conclusion is this: even an agreed upon complete lack of evidence could not stop President Trump, Mark Meadows, and their allies from trying to overturn the results of a free and fair election. So let's return to that meeting at the White House on the evening of December 18. That night, a group showed up at the White House, including Sidney Powell, retired Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, and former Overstock.com CEO Patrick Byrne. After gaining access to the building from a junior White House staffer, the group made their way to the Oval Office. They were able to speak with the president by himself for some time until White House officials learned of the meeting. What ensued was a heated and profane clash between this group and President Trump's White House advisors, who traded personal insults, accusations of disloyalty to the president, and even challenges to physically fight. The meeting would last over 6 hours, beginning here in the Oval Office, moving around the West Wing, and many hours later, ending up in the president's private residence. The Select Committee has spoken with 6 of the participants, as well as staffers who could hear the screaming from outside the Oval Office. What took place next is best told in their own words, as you will see from this video.
Did you believe that it was going to work, that you were going to be able to get to see the president without an appointment?
I had no idea.
In fact, you did get to see the president without an appointment.
We did.
How much time did you have alone with the president? And I say alone, you had other people with you, but
Right.
from his aides before the crowd came running?
Probably no more than 10 or 15 minutes.
Was in that...
I bet Pat Cipollone set a new land speed record.
I got a call either from Molly or Kushner that I need to get to the Oval Office.
So that was the first point that I had recognized, okay, there was nobody in there from the White House. Mark's gone. What's going on right now?
I opened the door and I walked in. I saw General Flynn. I saw Sidney Powell sitting there.
Period of time that you had with the president, did he seem receptive to the presentation that you were making?
He was very interested in hearing particularly about the CISA finding and the terms of 13848 that apparently nobody else had bothered to inform him of.
I was asking, like, you claiming the Democrats were working with Hugo Chavez, Venezuelans, and whomever else. And at one point, General Flynn took out a diagram that supposedly showed IP addresses all over the world, and who was communicating with whom via the machines, and some comment about like Nest thermostats being hooked up to the internet.
So it's been reported that during this meeting, Ms. Powell talked about Dominion voting machines and made various election fraud claims that involve foreign countries such as Venezuela, Iran, and China. Is that accurate?
That's fair.
Was the meeting tense?
Oh, yeah. It was not a casual meeting.
Explain.
I mean, at times there were people shouting at each other, hurling insults at each other. It wasn't just sort of people sitting around on a couch, like, chit-chatting.
Do you recall whether he raised to Ms. Powell the fact that she and the campaign had lost all of the 60 cases that they had brought in litigation?
Yes, he raised that.
And what was the response?
I don't remember what she said. I don't think it was a good response.
Cipollone and Hirschman and whoever the other guy was showed nothing but contempt and disdain of the president.
Yeah, I remember the three of them were really sort of forcefully attacking me verbally. Derek, and we were pushing back, and we were asking one simple question as a general matter. Where is the evidence? So,
what response did you get when you asked Ms. Powell and her colleagues, where's the
a variety of responses based on my current recollection, including, can't believe you would say something, things like this, like, what do you mean, where's the evidence? You should know, and things like that, or, a disregard, I would say, a general disregard for the importance of actually backing up what you say with facts.
And, then there was discussion of, well, we don't have it now, but we will have it, or whatever.
I mean, if
it had been me sitting in his chair, I would have fired all of them that night and had them escorted out of the building.
Derek and I both challenged what she was saying. And she says, well, the judges are corrupt. And I was like, everyone? Every single case that you've done in the country you guys lost, every one of them is corrupt? Even the ones we appointed? And I'm being nice. I was much more harsh to her.
So one of the other things that's been reported that was said during this meeting was that President Trump told White House lawyers, Mr. Hirschman and Mr. Cipollone, that they weren't offering him any solutions, but Ms. Powell and others were. So why not try what Ms. Powell and others were proposing? Do you remember anything along those lines being said by President Trump?
I do. That sounds right.
I think that it got to the point where the screaming was completely out there. I mean, you got people walk in, it was late at night, it had been a long day, and what they were proposing, I thought was nuts.
I'm gonna categorically describe it as, you guys are not tough enough. Or maybe I put it another way, you're a bunch of pussies. Excuse the expression, but I'm almost certain the word was used.
Flynn screamed at me that I was a quitter and everything, kept on standing up and turning around and screaming at me. And then at a certain point I had it with him. So I yelled back. I had to come over or sit your effing ass back down.
The president and the White House team went upstairs to the residence, but to the public part of the residence, you know, the big parlor where you can have meetings in the conference room.
Oval? They call it the yellow oval?
Yes, exactly, the yellow oval office. I always called it the upper. And I'm not exactly sure where the Sydney group went. I think maybe the Roosevelt room. And I stayed in the cabinet room, which is kind of cool. I really like that. All by myself.
At the end of the day, we landed where we started the meeting, at least from a structural standpoint, which was Sidney Powell was fighting, Mike Flynn was fighting. They were looking for avenues that would result in President Trump remaining President Trump for a second term.
President Trump actually granted Ms. Powell's security clearance and appointed her to a somewhat ill-defined position of special counsel.
He asked Pat Cipollone if he had the authority to name me special counsel, and he said yes. And then he asked him if he had the authority to give me whatever security clearance I needed, and Pat Cipollone said yes. And then the president said, okay, you know, I'm naming her that, and I'm giving her security clearance. And then shortly before we left, and it totally blew up, was when Cipollone and or Hirschman and whoever the other young man was said, you can name her whatever you want to name her, and no one's going to pay any attention to it.
How did he respond? How did the president respond to that?
Something like, you see what I deal with this all the time.
Over the ensuing days, no further steps were taken to appoint Sidney Powell, but there is some ambiguity about what the president actually said and did during the meeting. Here is how Pat Cipollone described it.
I don't know what her understanding of whether she had been appointed, what she had been appointed to. Okay. In my view, she hadn't been appointed to anything and ultimately wasn't appointed to anything because there had to be other steps taken. So that was my view when I left the meeting, but she may have a different view and others may have a different view and the president may have a different view.
Were any steps taken, including the president himself, telling her she'd been appointed?
Again, I'm not going to get into what the president said in the meeting. My recollection is you're not appointed till steps are taken to get the paperwork done. And when I left the meeting, okay, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not going to get into what the president said or said he wanted.
Mr. Cipollone, when the matter continued to flare up over the next several days,
Was it your understanding that Sidney Powell was still seeking an appointment, or that she was asserting that she had been appointed by the president at the December 18 meeting?
You know, now that you mention it, probably both. You know, in terms of like, I think she may have been of the view that she had been appointed and was seeking to, you know, get that done, and that she should be appointed.
As you listen to these clips, remember that Ms. Powell, the person who President Trump tried to make special counsel, was ultimately sanctioned by a federal court and sued by Dominion Voting Systems for defamation. In her own defense to that lawsuit, Sidney Powell argued that, quote, no reasonable person would conclude that the statements were truly statements of fact. Not long after Sidney Powell, General Flynn, and Rudy Giuliani left the White House in the early hours of the morning, President Trump turned away from both his outside advisors' most outlandish and unworkable schemes and his White House counsel's advice to swallow hard and accept the reality of his loss.
Like you have no power, you're the president. Like, if you're dealing with these people, that was definitely number three. Not going along with his top inner circle, and showing the Dominion algorithms. Definitely number three. We head back to kind of the same circumstance with number four. So this is pretty much the executive orders that they had written up, his inner circle had written up, for Trump to gather the Dominion machines and put them all together and investigate what was actually happening. Again, it doesn't matter who you voted for, the fact that we could have gotten this, and it came in the Air Force Times. They were ready to.
So Trump's never issued order for DOD, Department of Defense, to seize voting machines surfaces again in January 6th committee. This was back in July 13th, 22, from the Air Force Times, reported by Jonathan Leffield. And this is probably the most exposure of who really is Donald Trump in a video that I've shown. A draft executive order by the then President Donald Trump and his allies that would have directed the Pentagon to confiscate voting machines, the Dominion systems, after the 2020 election was discussed in Congress on Tuesday afternoon. The meeting was 7th public hearing by the Select Committee formed by Democratic lawmakers. Basically, the efforts to seize the voting machines following the 2020 presidential elections were discussed by the committee during the hearing, among other topics. The draft executive order from Trump that was never issued was first obtained by the Politico. This order would have instructed the Pentagon to seize, collect, retain, and analyze all machines of Dominions, equipment, electronically stored information, and material records required for retention under U.S. election law, and given the Defense Secretary 60 days to provide an assessment. This proposed order directs the Secretary of Defense to seize voting machines, quote, effective immediately. But it goes further than that. Under the order, President Trump would appoint a special counsel, like we saw in the video, with the power to seize the machines and then charge people with the crimes. That would have been Sidney Powell, the one, the video we just watched, with all resources necessary to carry out the duties. So again, goes back to what we watched before. Trump was considering Sidney Powell from his legal team to act as that special counsel, according to asking Trump. White House Pat Capicolini also testified to the committee in the clip, blah blah blah, and then he thinks that she wasn't a good idea. He was the one that should have been fired. Yeah. So this is what ties everything together to make that another strike, some sort of a weird coincidence where you had an option to show the American people the evidence that they were pushing back on, where they were saying, where's the evidence? Here it is. Carry out that executive order. And then you would have had the evidence to present to any court in the land. But no, this could not have happened. So they did everything possible to stop this order from happening, and that's why it's another strike for me. You had everything you needed, supposedly, and yet you did not act when it mattered the most.
All the Dominion machines and actually have an actual investigation as to what happened, because there was a lot of rumors online that those machines were hooked on the internet. So that's definitely the number 4, is the machines, the executive order that was never actually put through. That's going to be number 5 is Epstein. Like, the fact that he knew him early in the 90s, he brought him down to Florida, they partied in Miami. You know, if you're...
Footage from 1992 found in the NBC archives shows the future president welcoming Jeffrey Epstein to his Mar-a-Lago estate. The get-together more than a decade before Epstein pleaded guilty to prostitution charges in Florida. Both men are seen enjoying themselves, Trump pointing out women dancing in front of them. An apparently friendly encounter with a man the...
Come on in, go inside.
An
You're dealing with the elite, and you're distancing yourself only when it gets hot. I mean, the fact that he was... It could have been right. I mean, maybe he was right in distancing himself, but at the same time, the fact that he partied with him, I mean, you get to really know somebody when you party with somebody, you know? So that's definitely number 5. Number 6. So this is an actual resurfaced video of Trump actually congratulating Schwab. I mean, come on, really? Like, so I know on that same Davos trip, which was a couple years ago, he was also talking about America first. But it's like, if you know about the globalists, why are you congratulating them? So to me, that's never something that's never really been unanswered. So that's why it's got to.
Mr. President, what is your message to the senators at your trial this week? Mr. President, is your trial now getting underway? Why is it better to be here in Davos than in Washington, D.C.?
Well, we're here meeting with world leaders, the biggest, most important people in the world, and we're bringing back tremendous business in the United States, and they're all here to see. I'll be making a speech, and then we'll be leaving shortly. But I think it's very important. The other's just a hoax. It's the witch hunt that's been going on for years, and frankly, it's disgraceful. But we look forward to being here. Klaus has done a fantastic job. And again, we're meeting with the biggest companies in the world, the biggest businesses in the world, and world leaders, all for the benefit of the United States. We look forward to the meetings.
Be number 6. Number 7, guys, this one hits home. The fact that he, again, did not listen to his closest circle like JFK Jr. Instead, he went ahead and listened to Bill Gates. And when Bill Gates told him not to investigate, I mean, come on, like, you're gonna listen to, yeah, again, another character flaw, unusual. Again, something for somebody that's in a cult or in a...
And the second time I saw him was, his name is Robert Kennedy Jr. was the March after that, so March 2017 in the White House. In both of those 2 meetings, he asked me if vaccines weren't a bad thing, because he was considering a commission to look into ill effects of vaccines, and somebody, his name is Robert Kennedy Jr., was advising him that vaccines were causing bad things, and I said, no, that's a dead end, that would be a bad thing, don't do that. Then
over controlled or some way. So that was definitely number 7 there. Number 8. So the fact that he postponed the JFK files down to an administration which he said he supposedly took the election. Why would you postpone something so, some more things can get blacked out? So the JFK files, the fact that he postponed them to Biden, that's number 8. I mean, if you definitely want to distance yourself from a deep state, why continue the ball? Number 9 is actually the one that he got the 2016 presidency with, when he hit Clinton with the whole if I would be the president, you'd be in jail type of thing.
At the first debate, we had millions of people fact-checking, so I expect we'll have millions more fact-checking, because, it is, it's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
He said he was going to appoint a special counsel. That never happened. So, it's just another follow-through on something that if you were...
I didn't think I'd say this, but I'm going to say it. And I hate to say it. But if I win, I am going to instruct my Attorney General to get a special prosecutor to look into your situation, because there has never been so many lies, so much deception. There has never been anything like it. And we're going to have a special prosecutor. When I speak, I go out and speak. The people of this country are furious. In my opinion, the people that have been long-term workers at the FBI are furious. There has never been anything like this where emails and you get a subpoena, and after getting the subpoena, you delete 33,000 emails. And then you acid wash them, or bleach them, as you would say, a very expensive process. So we're going to get a special prosecutor, and we're going to look into it, because you know what? People have been... their lives have been destroyed for doing 1/5 of what you've done, and it's a disgrace. And honestly, you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Or in a secret society, I guess you would look out for each other. So that's definitely number 9. Number 10. So this one's a little bit kind of complicated, but the fact that he has such a close ties to Elon Musk. Elon Musk has the control of Twitter, which is free speech in a way. The fact that he let Trump back, but not Alex Jones, like, what's going on? Why can't he? Is that part of the club? So he did not let Alex Jones, but he let Trump back Twitter. That's kind of weird about Elon Musk, and the fact that he's wearing that Baphomet satanic shield like on his profile picture. The guy still hasn't even taken it off. Are you serious? Like, has anybody noticed that on Twitter? So it's just weird. Elon Musk was weird with the whole Neuralink and displaying that satanic thing, letting Trump back, but not Alex Jones. I mean, that's definitely number 10 for me right there. So it's just kind of weird. Number 11, guys. So this one again reverts back to Elon Musk, but Jared Kushner. So I've already told you how Elon Musk has this kind of weird satanic vibe. So does Jared Kushner. He has the Park Avenue building 666, and in the same building.
Fifth Avenue, a prime piece of New York City's skyline, just 6 blocks from Central Park. Jared Kushner decided to make it his trophy in 2007.
This was the deal that put Jared on the map. I think every dynasty wants to own a piece of Manhattan.
To get the seller's attention, Kushner offered a big price, $1.8 billion, a record at the time. And the 26-year-old CEO of Kushner Companies borrowed aggressively to get the deal done.
Building, he had Lucent Labs, which was working with AT&T in that same floor to actually come up with a program called Inferno, which would actually surveil in some sort of a way and make some sort of centralized app.
Yes, it turns out that Mr. Kushner here was, again, these connections are just really weird, and he had in his 666 building another company called Lucent Technologies, which was also part of some sort of a AT&T project, and again, Lucent means light bearing. Again, and light bearing. What does the light bearing in Latin mean? Lucent mean. Okay, this is a very weird thing, but it all comes from Helena Blavatsky and her theosophy. This is Satanism. This is not theosophy. This is not different occults. This is just Satanism under a different name. Now, the word Lucis or Lucis Trust, let the plan of love and light work out. Again, Satan will come as an angel of light, so he disguises himself as good. Lucis Trust is a global organization that worked with the UN, and they have a lot of weird things in their history. Let me show you what their history is. Was established by Alice Foster Bailey. So we look at Alice. She was another Theosophy Satanist who talked about the light bearer. Just like Blavatsky was another one, a Russian mystic and Theosophical Society. Again, these people talked about here's a snake. There is no religion higher than truth, their Satanist truth. So it has all of, and this is actually a satanic symbol, which Lucent technology used, the snake eating itself. So, why would he allow this weird occult society company come into his 666 building, okay? Then starts generating they tried to do some sort of operating system called Inferno, which would integrate everything, kind of like all type of app system where it would just have one single network, and like a matrix sort of. And this was part of the Bell Labs, which was in the 666 building, supposedly. Now, Mr. Kushner, again, has also ties to Goldman Sachs, Soros. I mean, why? I mean, this guy had so much power. He tried to deal with some sort of Inferno-like omnipotent program that was running at the 666 building, and has these symbolisms of the light bearer, Satan. And again, initially, Lucis Trust, which this organization by Alice Bailey and Blavatsky, was a publishing company, and initially it was named Lucifer Publishing Company. Wow. See, again, this is pure Satanism. Okay, Blavatsky. It soon became clear that some Christian groups have, again, traditionally mistaken with Lucifer. So they this is what Satan does. It plays with your words, and these groups, they all work together to build these systems to pay each other. So Jared is very dark, weird connections. Then you have Elon Musk with the Neuralink. I'm sorry, like, nobody's answered these questions. Nobody's put this stuff together, and I'm the one that I'm gonna have to do it. Apparently, so please subscribe to Nicodramas, guys. Something like it was weird with AT&T, and the fact that, and this is what makes it number 11. The fact that he was already dealing with all that weird satanic stuff, and then now he's been seen with with Elon Musk at the Qatar World FIFA, and both of these guys are dealing with surveilling systems, and are kind of like in the satanic vibe. You know what I mean? So it's like, for me, the fact that he's in that club and he was let back on Twitter by Elon Musk, and he's dealing with Jared Kushner, and they have these weird dark vibes, that's definitely number 11. It's like, what's going on there? Can somebody explain to me why these guys are dealing with this? It's weird. Please explain to me that, guys, in the comments or something. Number 12. So this one's actually The Simpsons. The fact that they got him coming down the escalators, that is kind of weird.
It's a phenomenon. As deja vu. You arrive at a place you've never been. What it feels is believed by many to be a trick of the mind. But the truth is far more extraordinary. He has been shown a secret the government doesn't want you to know. If you had the ability to open a window ahead of the future, and you saw things that went against everything you believed, what would you do about it? If you think it's just a feeling, go back.
So the Illuminati have been known to link to the Simpsons, so that's definitely number 12. Number 13 of why I think Trump may be Illuminati, Kanye West. So Kanye West seems like this type of personality who has multiple personalities, which just usually goes with the whole satanic vibe. He has that double persona, the Balenciaga mask, how he came on to Alex Jones and trying to make them kind of look weird and bad. The whole Hitler thing. I think he's touching upon truth and fake and trying to make the conservative movement look bad. And I think that's what Trump is doing too. I think they're two of the same type of person, Trump and Kanye. They're people who understand the conservative movement, and I think have secret occult ties to these people, and they project it when it's most important. Just like Kanye, he projected it when it was more important, and he brought out the bad stuff with Hitler. Same thing with Trump. When it most mattered with Trump, his character fell, and the person that he was not where to be seen. And that's why Kanye West is so like him, because they share so much truth, but when it matters, they disappoint you. And these are all just weird ties, and that's why Kanye is number 13. The fact that he met with him multiple times. They have the same type of duality, personality, dark and light, good and bad, woke and awake. So yeah, guys, tell me what you think about my 13 points why I think Trump is Illuminati. I could be wrong. He could still be a good guy. Again, I myself voted for him in 2016, even though I wanted Rand Paul. Currently, I want Ron DeSantis or Rand Paul. But yeah, that's what I think, guys. I think we could be majorly getting played with the left and the right. Tell me what you think. Make sure you subscribe to Nico Dramas, and thank you for showing up.